Hey, it's Drip, and welcome back to another episode of I don't know what the fuck I'm doing in this program I just bought. In this video, I'm going to be going over the piano roll in FL Studio. The editing tool workflow is roughly the same as the playlist workflow. If you're unfamiliar with that, I will leave a link where you can check out my playlist workflow video. But the piano roll has a separate set of tools that doesn't really apply to the playlist, and that's mainly what I'm going to be going over in this video. These tools give you a lot of options for creativity and making your MIDI sound more or less robotic depending on what you're going for. But if you learn the hotkeys for these tools, it'll significantly improve your workflow in the piano roll and will help you make better music faster. All right, let's get right in. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to go over in this video is how to actually record MIDI. So there's this option right here that turns your typing keyboard into a musical keyboard if you don't have an external MIDI keyboard. So you can use that to record MIDI. You have to hit this red button up here, but before you can actually start recording, you need to right click and you need to make sure that this notes option is checked. Otherwise it won't record any of the MIDI. All right, so then all you have to do is push play and then you can start recording. Okay, so you can control right click and that'll zoom in on what you got. I'm going to go ahead and turn this record button off. And this is the MIDI that we just recorded right here. The next thing I wanted to go over is how you can actually save MIDI for future use. Like, let's say you really like a certain chord progression. You can actually save that for future projects and just drag and drop it in or import it. So if you go to this drop down menu at the top and you go to File, you've got this Export as MIDI file. So if you go ahead and click that, you can name this as, let's just say, sample, right? And then I'm going to delete what we just recorded, and I'm going to go down and import MIDI file. And then that'll take us to the same folder that we just saved it to. And then you can just double click on it, and there it is. That's the MIDI we just recorded. If you go up to this tools option right here, you've got this dump score log option, and you can go back. If you've just been like doodling around on your piano or just, messing around with some ideas, you can actually go back 2 minutes, 5 minutes, up to 30 minutes in the past, and it actually records all of the MIDI information that you do, whether you're actually recording it or not. And so let's just do 2 minutes, right? Okay, so I guess you need to go to a new pattern because whenever you dump the score log, it's going to be dumping it onto a pattern. So that's what this pop-up window is just telling you. So I'm going to push cancel, and then I'm going to go to pattern 2. It's a clean pattern, and then I'm going to do the same thing. All right, and see, this is all the MIDI that I've done for the past 2 minutes, like whenever I first opened the DAW and I switched my typing keyboard to a piano keyboard. This is just the starter notes that I did. And then this looks like what I actually recorded and just some other stuff. This may have been what I actually recorded too. But that's an option too. If you played something and you weren't actually recording and you were like, oh man, I wish I had that, you do have it. So you just got to dump the score log. So now the next thing I wanted to go over is quantization. But before I do that, I'm going to go up to this little wrench up here, and it's going to give you a list of tools that are specific to the piano roll. And you're going to find 3 different options for quantizing. You've got quick quantize, quantize start times, and quantize, just the quantize menu. So I'm going to go over those real quick. Looks like, and then to the right, you have hotkeys for all of them. So you've got Control Q for quick quantize. So let's just do that real quick. See, you do quick quantize and it just jumps to the nearest grid point that you have. So let's just Control Z that. So this is dependent on your grid size. So if I go up and I change my grid size to a super small amount and I push Control Q, then it's going to be a lot more accurate to what I actually recorded than if I, let's say, have it on beat and push Control Z to bring it back. So if I hit Control Q right now, it's going to look a lot different than it did before whenever the grid size was a lot smaller. So just keep that in mind. And now if you hit Shift Q, then it's just going to quantize the start times, which will give the MIDI a more human feeling than if you quantize the start and end times, especially if you have a small grid size selected. And if you hit Alt Q, then it's going to pull up the quantize menu where you have more freedom to precisely dial in the quantize settings that you actually want. So this is what it looks like. So as you can see right here, you can adjust the start time, you can adjust the duration, and you can adjust the sensitivity. So if I crank the sensitivity up and I adjust the start time, you can see that it's moving a lot more than if the sensitivity was turned down. You have this drop down menu as well, and you can leave the duration and the end time, and you can quantize duration, and you can just mess with these properties. They all do something a little bit different, but this menu just lets you dial in exactly how it quantizes your MIDI. All right, the next thing I wanted to go over is this quick legato option. So right now I've got this space between each one of the chords that I played, but if you wanted to get rid of that space and make the note duration go all the way up until the next note, you can hit Control L, and that'll extend the notes till the next note plays. I don't know what's up with this note. So more or less, it brings the notes to the next note, right? And it looks like we've got Alt L is articulate. So this just lets you manually adjust exactly how much note duration you're getting, and it allows you to vary it to give it more of a human feel. It just gives you more options. And you've got this chop option. All right, we got quick chop, which is Control U. All right. And that just does it, I guess, based on the grid size. And that's pretty intense, but let's do Alt U, and it brings up this menu, right? So it seems like this is pretty standard across the board. You've got a quick option for these tools, and then you've got the tool that brings up the menu, which allows you to mess with the options a little bit more specifically. And as you can see, it just kind of makes it bigger or smaller, depending on what you're looking for. Okay, this glue option actually merges MIDI clips that are touching. So let's do Control G. And not all of them were touching, but all of the ones that were touching got merged into one automation clip. Okay, so I quantized these to basically what I was trying to do whenever I originally recorded it. And now I'm going to hold down Control L to extend the MIDI to the next note, and then I'm going to hit Control G, which then merges it all into one MIDI for all of them that were touching. So that's what the glue option does. You've got this arpeggiate option right here, which is Alt A. Then it's going to do what it says. It's going to turn your chord and it's going to arpeggiate it for you. And you have all of these options to choose how you would like FL Studio to arpeggiate your chord, right? Okay, you've got this strum option, which I actually use quite a bit whenever I'm trying to humanize how my MIDI chords sound. So that's Alt S. Let's give that a shot. Okay, so it remembers your settings. So these must have been my settings for the last time I did this. But if I reset everything to default, actually, you can just push this reset button. This allows you to adjust the timing of the strum. You know, think of a guitar. Whenever you strum the strings on a guitar, it doesn't play all of them at the same time. It goes one at a time, right? So you get kind of a strum like that. And then you can adjust the velocity down here, you know, and you just have all of these options to kind of humanize the playing. And then the Flam does exactly what you might think it does, and that's Alt F. And then right here, you can adjust the Flam options. Okay, next up, we've got this claw machine, and this basically just randomizes note duration in case you're just kind of wanting to, you know, throw something at the wall and see if it sticks. I don't really use that a lot. I typically have an idea that I want to go with, but this could help you maybe if you're feeling stuck. This flip option is really good if you're doing arpeggios. So this is Alt Y. So first, let's do a quick quantize. Now let's do Control L, Control G to do the glue option. And then now let's do Alt A to arpeggiate it, hit enter to accept. And now you can take this arpeggio, and if you want to flip that vertically or horizontally, you can hit Alt Y, and then it gives you this menu. And like I said, you can choose to flip it vertically or horizontally. And you've also got this randomize button as well. And you've got this Riff Machine, which also incorporates a bit of randomization. Again, if you're having a hard time coming up with ideas, this could possibly help you out. And as you can see, you've got a lot of choices in how you would like to manipulate this MIDI to sound however it is that you want it to sound, you know? You can just kind of mess with it until you find something you like. And that all came from this arpeggiated MIDI that we got from that one chord. So you can come up with some pretty cool stuff. The next thing I wanted to go over is this LFO option. I've never actually used this before, but just checking it out right now, it looks like you might be able to get some cool sounds depending on what you're going for. So as you can see right now, it's made an LFO out of the velocity, and you can adjust the volume of that velocity, and you can invert the LFO, and you can choose the speed of the LFO. Now, it doesn't look like you can actually automate these, but I think that might sound kind of cool if you could automate this. But yeah, I mean, it just looks visually kind of cool, doesn't it? And then if you choose this end option, you can also change the volume of the end of the LFO, the range, and the speed of the end of the LFO. And you can adjust the phase of the LFO so it starts in a different area. I don't know, it's pretty neat. I've never used it before, but it looks like it has potential, right? So there were a couple more things I wanted to go over as far as just how you move MIDI around within the piano roll. So if I go ahead and highlight everything, you can hit Control up and down to transpose it octaves. So Control up goes up an octave, Control down goes down an octave. And if you hold down Shift, then it goes by semitones like this, right? And if you want to copy something, and this actually goes for the playlist as well, you can do Control C, Control V, that's fine. But the way that I typically do it is if you hold down Shift and you click and drag, it'll create a clone of whatever you have highlighted. So I use that quite a bit. And also, you should probably know that the vertical zoom in the piano roll is different than in the playlist. So if you hold down Control and you adjust the scroll wheel, it still zooms in horizontally. But if you hold down Alt and use the scroll wheel, then as you can see, it's going to adjust the volume on the velocity control down here. And that's not what we're wanting. What we're wanting is to vertically zoom. So you have to hold down Control and hold down the scroll wheel and move your mouse up and down to vertically zoom in and out, right? And then if you hold down Control right click, you can zoom back out just like in the playlist. So that's Control and scroll wheel to zoom horizontally, and Control, hold down the scroll wheel and move your mouse up or down to zoom vertically. All right, so if you made it to this point, thank you for watching the video. I hope you learned something that you can take to the DAW now and try out for yourself. If you're interested in a free EDM sample pack, you can follow the link in the description, and it'll take you to my website where you can find that free download and start using them for yourself. And remember to keep grinding, because luck is where preparation meets opportunity. All right, peace.
Drop it.